Heavy snow is currently impacting much of the Midwest, but in the next few days, we're getting round two, and it might be even stronger. What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. All right, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. Snowstorm is currently impacting much of the Midwest. Currently, snow is falling in Chicago and St. Louis, Indianapolis. Is starting to impact parts of Michigan as well at the time of recording this video. Will likely be even further to the east by the time you guys see this. But ultimately, the case in point is we need to take this very seriously. We need to watch out for this. There's already a lot of accidents. There's already a lot of travel problems going on where this system is impacting rather. And we also have another snowstorm that's expected to start getting its act together on Monday that we're going to want to pay attention to, and then more snowfall on top of that going into the rest of December. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive right into it right here. Here is the computer models. We're just going to go ahead and jump right into this and then look at the winter weather alerts in just a second. Here's what we have for the North American model. This is the 12Z run, so this was initiated at 6 a.m. We're going to go ahead and zoom into the Midwest to show you what's going on. Snowfall is expected to continue throughout the morning, actually. In fact, in St. Louis, because of that temperature difference and because it's going to be colder and remain colder, it's going to remain mostly snow throughout its entire time until likely the late afternoon into the early evening, and then we're going to see some snow on the backside going into tonight and to early tomorrow morning. At the same time, the Chicago area, you guys are going to get the heaviest of the snow starting likely about noon today, going all the way until about 6 p.m. tonight, and same thing with Indianapolis as well. And then much of Michigan, if you're tuning in for this, the thing you're going to want to watch out for is not just the snowfall, not just the impacts, but the lake effect this could potentially bring behind it if you're tuning in from Grand Rapids, from Traverse City, from pretty much anywhere in western Michigan. You're going to want to pay attention to that as well, and we'll keep you updated on the impacts and the conditions here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But on top of that, you're looking at the snowfall exiting much of the United States. By the time we get to December 1st, we have some lingering lake effect and Appalachian snow expected to impact much of the region throughout the day on the 1st, with the snowstorm behind it starting to develop from that Colorado low we've been looking at, and it's going to be, because temperatures are going to be colder, it's going to mainly be mostly snow for round two for a lot of areas. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and take a quick gander at the snow accumulation by 6 p.m. Tomorrow. Here is your total snow accumulation we can take a quick gander at right now. And as you can see, it's mainly, while snow has mainly started, this is mainly additional snow accumulation. But if we go ahead and zoom in the Midwest, it looks like Chicago could see an additional 10 inches of snow, potentially areas outside Chicago up to a foot, Northwest Indiana 10 inches of snow, Detroit could see up to 4 to 5, Grand Rapids up to 8, Traverse City up to about 5, and areas in Indianapolis, if you're in the northern Indy suburbs, potentially up to 6 to 7 inches of snow. If you're in downtown Indy, likely 3 to 5 is possible right now. It's stuff you're going to have to pay attention to moving forward. It's still going to cause significant impacts throughout this, regardless of the amount of snow you're going to get. We have the National Weather Service pulled up for you guys right here. Winter storm warnings from Michigan all the way down to Illinois, all the way through Iowa and Ohio remain in effect. Winter weather advisories will likely be issued for parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and the rest of the Northeast. But this is a kind of ground zero that we're dealing with right here, and we're going to want to watch out. We're going to want to pay attention. Just want to take a quick gander at the snowfall warnings for Chicago. And this is what we got. It remains in effect until 6 a.m. on Sunday. Total snow accumulation between 6 and 10 inches according to the National Weather Service. We're going to want to pay attention to that as well. It's mainly like that across much of the region as well. So we're going to want to pay attention and take a quick gander at what's going on. But on top of that, we're also looking at the colder temperatures behind this as well. for a lot of areas. Let's go ahead and show you those colder temperatures. Temperatures are going to be starting to cool off across much of Missouri going into Illinois tonight. And then as we get to tomorrow morning, temperatures are going to be in the mid-20s in much of central Illinois, but in Iowa and potentially parts of the Dakotas right here, we're in the teens. And then as we zoom out once again and show you what's going on, Great Plains, you're seeing temperatures potentially single digits tonight. So that's going to be the first round of your polar vortex we've been looking at, and you're going to want to keep a close eye on this. But then as we get into tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, look at this. Temperatures, single digits, go all the way to near Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and temperatures in the teens go as far south as Chicago. So this is going to be very cold. You're looking at very cold temperatures all the way down to Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. That's where your freezing line is. It's a bit colder in the higher elevations. That's not particularly surprising at this current point. And then as we get to Monday morning right here, and then we get to Tuesday, and this is going to be critical for our second snowstorm, you have another Arctic wave that's going to be pushing even further to the south in Texas, going all the way down to near Waco, definitely way past DFW as well. And in Illinois, you're looking at temperatures still hovering in the teens in the Chicago area, so it's going to be quite cold at this current point, so we'll have to watch out for that. And that also means that we're going to see all snow and no transition to rain or anything in the Midwest with our second wave, which we'll go ahead and talk about right now. So here's your second wave of snow. It emerges as a Colorado low starting tomorrow afternoon. It starts to develop right here, and then you see the low pressure system starting to build up. You start seeing significant amounts of snowfall in parts of Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, and going into Illinois. So this is going to be round 2 by Monday afternoon, going into the evening, and things really start to ramp up by around 9 o'clock at night, according to the NAM, in parts of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana. Michigan once again gets hit by snow. I talked about it this week. I've always said Michigan, Michigan, Michigan. This is why, because it getting hit by snow over and over and over and over again, pretty much leading to and after one of the busiest travel weeks and weekends during the country. So that's something to keep in mind right there. Snow continues to move through parts of the eastern Midwest, going into Indiana, Ohio, parts of Kentucky as well. Then it starts to ramp up in Pennsylvania, New York. That rain-snow line actually shifted a bit further up to the north, so that's going to put the Midwest more in the line of fire, but it also kept a lot of the areas on the I-95 corridor more so in the rain for it this time, according to the North American model. So we're going to want to watch out for that. This is by the time we get to 0Z, or at least Wednesday, or at least Tuesday night right here. A lot of snowfall still for New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, those areas, while areas in the I-95 corridor mainly are rain or freezing precipitation. So that's something to keep in mind and pay attention to as well. Taking a quick look at the snow accumulations, this is according to the NAM. We're also going to be looking at other models as well. Let's go ahead and start the Midwest. This is also, keep in mind, additional accumulation compared to what we saw previously. So starting off in St. Louis, for example, we were looking at maybe 5 inches of snow from the first system, according to the NAM. Definitely produces some more snowfall across a lot of the region. A good 3 to 4 additional inches for you guys down there in the Chicago area. Taking a quick good look at this. Yeah, you're looking at 3 to 5 on top of what you're seeing now. So that's going to cause even more problems, especially 2 days after a pretty big snowstorms hitting your area as well. Going into Ohio, that's where it's actually going to be the most impactful, as a matter of fact. In Ohio, before you were looking at maybe like a 1 to 3 inches, you're looking at a potentially up to 10 inches on top of that in some areas of central Ohio. That is something you're going to want to pay attention to and something you're going to want to watch out for at that current point. And then shifting over to the mid-Atlantic, looking at Pennsylvania, for example. Pennsylvania, a lot of the Appalachian regions, and even in Pittsburgh, could see quite a lot of snowfall with this as well. Upstate New York especially is going to get hammered by this as well. Same with Vermont. So that's something to watch out for. But my goodness, the next few days are going to be very, very impactful for tens of millions of people. And this is just the start of it, in my opinion, based on what we're seeing in December at this current point. But before we get into that, I want to go ahead and also do our temperature check for you guys right here. That polar vortex continues through much of the United States. It does start to lift a little bit by the time we get to December 3rd, but because of the pattern we're seeing in December where there's a lot of troughs, a lot of ridges, a lot of troughs, a lot of ridges, and cooling temperatures, you're going to see a lot more of an active pattern, and we've been talking about it ad nauseum over the last few days. And matter of fact, we're going to go ahead and show you the GFS just to kind of show you what we're potentially looking at. I know the GFS isn't the most accurate model, but it kind of does give you an illustration of potentially the synoptics and what kind of pattern we may be looking at. So we're going to be presenting it as such. We're going to be cross-referencing snow accumulations and all of that just to make sure that it's all accurate, and we'll run from there. But here's what we have from the 3rd of December. On the 4th, you have a little bit more snowfall developing in the mountains. Another clipper system moving through on the 5th and the 6th. Definitely going to impact the Great Lakes from there. And then as we get to the 7th and the 8th, you have more snowfall potential. You have a pretty big wave of snowfall and a pretty big system that's going to be moving through much of the Cascade Mountains into the Rocky Mountains as well. On the 9th and the 10th right here. That could be interesting down the line. You're definitely going to see a lot more of these low pressure systems for sure right here that you're going to want to pay attention to. But it's still a little bit early to kind of exactly look at just what and how much snowfall we might be looking at this current point. But I will say it's going to be concentrated either in the mountains or in the northwest, east of the U.S. and in parts of the Midwest. So we're going to want to watch out for that as well, especially as you see more lake effect, especially as you look at the climatological patterns as well. And another thing to watch out for is your temperatures. Also going to show the European with this. GFS temperatures definitely continue to exacerbate our little polar vortex problem right here. Another big surge pushes in the 8th and the 9th of December right here. It does start to calm down a little bit. You start seeing a little bit of a warming trend around the 13th, but then you get a bit of a push going on. So overall, you're just going to see a massive battleground throughout December. So whether we see a lot more severe weather, whether we see a lot more winter weather, it's just going to depend on what the temperatures do, and it's going to depend on how deep down these temperatures will ultimately go. Keep in mind, this is the GFS run. This is the 6Z. The 0Z shows something completely different at this current point as well. So you got to take these models with a grain of salt, especially this far out. But what we can definitively say is the pattern is a very active one, and it's something we're going to want to watch out for. You can't look at exactly what weather you're going to get, but what you can do is look at the synoptics of it and go, okay, this is a more active pattern. How much is this going to translate to severe weather? How much is this going to translate to winter weather? And what kind of impacts could we get, especially coming to around Christmas time as well? We're still going to want to watch out and pay attention to it. Here's the European forecast for you guys as well. Look at this. This is two separate things. The GFS wants a lot more of a warm situation. The Europeans wanting it as a more cold situation. It just depends on the model run, especially this far out. But at this current point in time, you're looking at this, and you're looking at this right here and taking a look at the European. Definitely a lot more consistent, a lot more of a situation in which is kind of more of an active pattern. Like I said, GFS definitely has that spot on. It's just the temperatures that really are quite warm with that scenario. And just for my fancy, I want to see what the GMGDPS is going for as well. Even that's having its own issues, but it's generally, at least according to the three runs, is leaning more towards the Euro run than the GFS. But all of these models do have some flaws, but you have a pretty big polar plunge, I would say, December 8th, December 9th, a lot more aggressive than the GFS as well. So that's something you're going to want to pay attention to. GFS, like I said, is not the most reliable model. European's definitely a bit more accurate. It's definitely more long range. We'll have to pay attention to it, but here's what we got going long run. This is the European that we have folding up right here. I know this is a little bit outlandish right here. I'm pointing at at North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia getting a copious amount of snow on December 9th. This is a bit outlandish at this current point. Did the 12Z have this? Kind of, but a little bit further to the south. So you might want to watch that, but even still, it is a little outlandish to kind of say, okay, we're going to get a foot of snow 12 days out. That's not likely going to happen at this current point unless the European continues to hold and the other models catch up to it. But at this current point, taking a quick gander at the situation, by the time you see this, based on what we're seeing over the next 2 weeks, and this also takes into account the snowstorms we're going to be seeing today and Monday as well. Matter of fact, before we get to even that, here's what we're seeing by the end of that right here. Quite a bit of snowfall right here. The European definitely, with that southern area right there, wants it a little bit further to the south than the NAM, but brings up to 10 plus inches of snow in Massachusetts, particularly Boston and parts of New York City as well. So that's kind of something that needs to be ironed out in the next few days, and hopefully the NAM and then the HUR and the RAP can definitely do that as we get closer to the day. But then as we continue to move forward, we see these snow systems really start to ramp up, potentially in the mid-Atlantic and in parts of the Midwest. Once again, a lot of lake effect snow potential is going to be happening for a lot of regions in the Great Lakes. You have those very warm temperature anomalies in terms of the lakes, especially compared to what we're seeing with the European and their cold temperatures as well aloft. That's definitely going to generate quite a lot of lake effect for you guys right there. So that's something to pay attention to as well. Also expected to see a lot more mountain snow as well that we're going to want to watch out for you folks in the mountains as well. But overall, my goodness, this is going to be a pretty significant December, at least the first half of December for a lot of people, potentially in the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast, the Midwest. It's going to be kind of giving a lot of people a headache, especially as they get to the holidays and they have travel plans, and we'll keep you updated on that all once again. But ultimately, you look at the situation, it's like I've said, like a broken record, it's a pretty active one, and I can also show you this as well. This is the CFS climate model. This kind of gives you an idea of what we may be seeing by the end of December. It's been very troughy, very ridgy, very wavy. That's a very active as well. By the time we get to the 16th, we have a pretty big Arctic plunge across much of the United States. The huge trough goes down right here. Low pressure system potentially starts firing off here, and that really brings a lot of cold air to the Carolinas, to Virginia, all the way down to Florida as well. That's going to be a potential Arctic blast situation on the 17th and the 18th, and then on the 20th you see a bit of a plunge. Then we get to the 22nd, the 23rd. As we get to Christmas, it definitely gets to a situation where things get a bit more interesting. Right here, for a lot of areas, it's going to be extremely cold. I would say even as far south as Dallas, you could definitely see some below average temperatures. But by and large, this is a pattern that will only continue throughout the rest of the month right here, the 27th, the 28th, and then the 29th and the 30th. Going into the new year of 2026, you're just going to see Arctic blast after Arctic blast after Arctic blast after Arctic blast, polar plunge after polar plunge after polar plunge, trough after trough after trough after trough after trough. If someone wants to clip this and make a song out of this, I don't care, but the point still stands that we're going to need to watch this very closely, because this type of trough and this type of ridge pattern is very, very favorable for producing and developing low pressure systems. And how that generates typically when you see all these temperature changes right here and you see all this cold moving through the United States, that is going to equate to more snowfall long term. And that is something that I am wanting to watch out for as well. And don't say I was lying when we're saying we're expecting a pretty active winter, folks. This is just the start of it right here. It's not going to be as cold as 2013 or 2014, but in my opinion, it's going to be as active as 2013 and 2014. So that's just an analog I'm looking at. But the main thing we need to talk about to close out this video is this. If you are traveling today, exercise extreme caution. If you're traveling tomorrow, exercise extreme caution. If you're traveling Monday, exercise extreme caution. Pretty much, if you're traveling all through until about Wednesday of next week, travel with travel with extreme caution. There's a lot of accidents that are going on. There's power lines down. I've been kind of watching the news. I've been kind of keeping up with everything. And we'll continue to keep up with everything here once again on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead close the video out right here. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. You got something out of it. And once again, if you want to clip that one segment into a song, I don't care. Just go ahead and send me the link to it. I'll definitely take a look and I'll definitely shout you out. But be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. If you'd like to help out, hang out, or ask us some questions, feel free to join the Storms United Discord server. The link to that is in the end screen. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.